be talking about what to expect when you're expecting the man edition. I was kind of nervous about what I was going to say during this because I thought we'd have a mixed audience, but it looks like we're going to be okay. We'll try to keep it for the correct amenities. So, first, I'd like to talk about my experience with what to expect when expecting. My wife and I first decided we were going to start trying to have a baby about almost 2 years ago now, late 2011, early 2012, and we were fortunate enough to have pretty good success early on. We were trying to conceive and got pregnant. I think we found out maybe it was March of 2012. And I remember it was a very nerve-wracking time. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. She's kind of freaking out, she's changing, and she's crying all the time, and we're kind of having some rough spots. And so I'm guessing there's a number of you in here who would like to have children in the near future or at some point in the future. So I'd like to kind of share my experiences with you guys, and maybe you can have a little bit of a less unpleasant experience or a less stressful experience, let's say that, than I did. So January 30th of 2013, this is my daughter Riley. She was born up in White Plains Hospital, and my wife had a cesarean section. For those of you who don't know, it's not a natural birth, it's not a vaginal birth. It's where the surgeon opens up the abdomen and removes the baby that way. So that's my experience, and that's peas all over her face, for those of you that are wondering. That was my turn to feed her. I introduced her to Hajjam. Okay, so here's a list of topics we're going to cover. What she's going through, how it affects your relationship, doctor's appointments, and then preparing for the big day. So it's important to keep in mind what a woman's body is going through when she's experiencing a pregnancy. It's hard for a guy to imagine, it's hard for a partner who hasn't gone through pregnancy to imagine what that's like. I mean, if you can imagine, I don't know if this is even a fair analogy, but how you feel after the biggest meal you've ever eaten, multiply that by about 5 or 10 times, and that's what a woman feels like on a daily basis when she's in that third trimester of pregnancy. And you can imagine how that's going to affect your diet. You're going to be full. Your stomach is going to get compressed by this mass of the uterus in your abdomen, and you're going to get full after a very small meal. It's going to be difficult to breathe because your diaphragm, which descends when you take a deep breath, can't descend all the way, so you're going to be slightly short of breath. Everything in there is compressed. Your bladder is going to be compressed. You're going to be going to the bathroom a lot more frequently. Musculoskeletal issues are going to ensue because you can imagine if you're tilted this way and you have this mass of a baby right here, 10 or 20 pounds or whatever it happens to be, it changes your center of gravity and you get what's called lumbar lordosis, which is a curvature of the spine which persists at all times. And in order to maintain the balance with the baby here, the woman just deals with that by going like this constantly throughout the third trimester of pregnancy. You can imagine that's not too pleasant. And then you've got hormonal shifts and obviously the stress and anxiety of knowing that this baby is going to descend out of your nether regions or be surgically removed from you. So that's going. And then also the 25 to 35 pound average weight gain that each woman is going to experience, the average woman is going to experience during pregnancy, is going to affect the self-image, and that's something that's going to, it's going to, for some women, be very difficult to deal with. Looking in the mirror every day and feeling unattractive or feeling that you've gained weight. So how does that relate to your relationship? Well, you as the partner have to exhibit a lot of empathy. You have to understand what she's going through, and I think I just outlined a lot of the reasons why she may be short-tempered or experiencing mood swings, and you've got to exhibit patience. You've got to assume the role of the trusty sidekick. And that's very important because she needs that. She's going to need that going through the whole process. And you kind of got to step aside and just be okay with her being the center of attention at all times. Be okay with taking care of her needs as the pregnancy proceeds, because it's going to be a long 9 months. And you kind of have to step aside and just take a deep breath and stay calm. So I just want to cover, we're obviously this is a very large topic, and I'm just going to cover real briefly what the period looks like. First, the doctor's appointments. From conception to 28 weeks, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the doctor's appointment every 4 weeks, and then 28 to 36 weeks, every 2 weeks, and after 36 weeks, you'll be going to the doctor's appointment every week. You as the partner, if you want to be supported, you really should be going to the doctor's appointment with her. You'll get ultrasounds periodically, not at all of these appointments. But one tip I would give you all is to make sure you scan those immediately. My wife and I kind of held on to them. They got a little crumbled up, muffled up before we ended up scanning them, so that kind of hurt. So make sure you scan them immediately after getting the ultrasounds. You should know your partner. I mean, if she's someone that's squeamish around blood or doesn't speak up at doctor's appointments, you want to make sure that you're kind of telling the doctor that or the nurse that if she needs to be said. So you know, my wife almost passed out a couple times during these doctor's appointments, getting stuck. She doesn't do well with blood, and so luckily I was there to kind of steady her so she didn't fall off the exam table. But you know, you want to be aware of how she's feeling. And lastly, speak up. I mean, you may feel like as a partner, especially as a man, you may not feel too comfortable in an OBGYN's office. I assume most of you haven't spent much time there, but this is half your fault, so I'd suggest you to speak up if you have concerns, make sure that they're addressed. I also suggest going to one of these websites to track milestones. What they'll do is send you an email every week, you and your wife an email, or your partner every week you'll get an email saying like, okay, the baby is, I remember the first one we got, the baby is a poppy seed. And then the next week, like, you know, your baby's a pea, your baby's a peanut, you know, and a grape, an apple, grapefruit, and one day, watermelon, and then the next day she's born. And it's nice to kind of have that visual reference in your head that this, you know, sites like this will send you each week. And, you know, also the fingers, the toes, the eyes, the heartbeat, that kind of stuff, and make it a little more real to you. Lastly, preparing for the big day, I'd suggest packing far in advance. A lot of people kind of wait till the last minute. This is a very stressful experience, especially if you're going to deliver vaginally and you don't know when that's going to be. You want to make sure you're packed up. I'm not going to list out the stuff that you're going to need here, but you just think about everything you need from step one to the end. You want to rehearse, and this sounds funny, but my wife and I actually drove, even though we found out later we were going to have a cesarean section, we drove her out to the hospital. You know, you think you're going to go to the doctor's office in the hospital. A lot of times it's a separate office that's, you know, far away. So you want to make sure you rehearse that and drive the route beforehand to reduce stress the day of. You don't want, she's going to be freaking out. And so even if you try to be the calm and know what's going on, you're going to be freaking out a little bit. So the last thing you need is to get lost on the way to the hospital. It's not going to be pretty if she's navigating with Siri in the back seat while she's experiencing contractions. You're going to hear about that for a long time if that's the case. Lastly, communicate and don't forget the camera. It's your job as the person who's not experiencing labor to call family, friends, keep them updated. Facebook if you're in that, and then make sure you document. Don't forget the camera because even though your wife may not appreciate that shot when she's gone through the most physically demanding experience of her life, she's not going to appreciate that camera in her face, but later on she'll thank you when you have that picture of your infant, brand new, with a mother. So last thing, I'm just going to go over the summary. So make the key to success, make sure you're going to be that trusty sidekick. It's your job to document and communicate. You want to empathize during the course of pregnancy, and you want to be the calm. You want to be the serenity, the sober yin to her raging yang when she's freaking out, and stay calm. Okay. All right, thanks. Are there any questions? Yeah.
What's your view on what you can and cannot eat during pregnancy? How much she could?
What she can and cannot eat? I mean, that's real difficult to say. Like, there's a whole spectrum of women who are like super careful, like won't touch anything. My wife wouldn't eat cold cuts, deli meat. A lot of women think that there's like an increased chance of getting listeria, which is a bacterial infection. It's whatever the woman's comfortable with. I mean, obviously alcohol is something you want to avoid. There are some studies that say like women can have a glass here and there during pregnancy, but the last thing you want is to have something happen with the pregnancy and then the woman is looking back saying, did I do that? Is that my fault because I had that glass of wine at the party? And I don't know what the evidence says, but I think if that was the situation, you want to avoid that situation. You don't want a mother looking back and saying, did I cause whatever? So I would definitely be very conservative. If if I was in that situation, and my wife was the same way.
How many more kids are you looking to have?
So she wants two, and I like four. So we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe we'll have triples next time around, and I'll win. We'll see. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do you plan to drive the 4 kids around?
Yeah, that was an issue. I mean, a sedan is perfect for 3 kids.
Yeah.
I grew up with 4, and my parents had one of those big vans. I like the idea of a big family. That's all. I just like, and I think I'd be willing to trade a little bit of dignity and drive around one of those minivans in order to have that nice big family to come home to, 4 or 5 years from now. Yeah.
How has the relationship changed being with parents?
It's kind of the same thing. I mean, if your wife's gonna breastfeed, or your partner's gonna breastfeed, then she's going to kind of have a closer connection to the child than you are. And that's just a sad fact. It's biology. And for example, the first, if you want to breastfeed, then she's going to be waking up 2-3 times a night for the first 8 weeks of the child's life. And so, the baby's going to wake up crying in the middle of the night, and you kind of want to help, but there's one thing she wants, it's food, it's milk, and you don't have it. So you're going to go back to sleep, and your wife's going to, or your significant other is going to go take care of the baby, and that connection is something that you can't ever have. Like, I know that sounds weird, but so it's almost like there's this thing between you and your wife, if that makes any sense, and that is literally the case. Any other questions? Yeah.
What name did you choose?
Oh, her name is Riley. Riley Sophia. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.